Hello and welcome to the Stamping Society's September tutorial bundle in which we are creating seasonal projects. I'm Angela Meiritz-Reid of Stamping Beauty in Christchurch, New Zealand, and today I'm sharing my written tutorial using the Merriest Moments stamp set and the sheet dies. If you would like to purchase the written tutorials for all our projects, please click on my blog link below. The tutorials include all the products and the measurements to create the projects. If you live in New Zealand and don't have a current demonstrator and would like copies of the current catalogues, please message me. I'd love to send them to you. And just before I get started, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel and would like to get to see the videos that I do besides this, please click on the subscribe link. Thank you. To start my card, I've got a Blushing Bride card base. I'm just going to fold that in half and finish that. And I'll just pop that aside ready for when I'm going to adhere everything to that. And then I've got two layers of white. The first layer is just ever so slightly bigger. See, I've got those around the wrong way. Than the next layer, just a millimetre or two, just to add a little bit of a frame. And then this layer here has been embossed with the time worn type, that's a mouthful, isn't it, embossing folder. I'll just bring that in to emboss. This is one of my favourite folders. I just think it gives a lovely subtle background. Through. And there we have it. So it's just really lovely. It's got a little bit of texture and some words. That is just going to adhere straight onto that layer. So I'll just add some glue to that. And that is good to go. And I'm just going to pop that straight onto that card base. There's nothing else to be done to it, so we can do that, get that out of the way. I like to add quite a few dimensionals just to make sure that it doesn't sort of sag. Let's make sure I get all those backs off. And then just going to pop that straight down here. And pop that aside. Then the next thing I'm going to do is watercolour some of the Fluid 100 watercolour paper. And I'm going to use Blushing Bride. Got the nice wide aqua painter, or water painter it is, sorry, and just a block. And I'll just get bit of scrap paper, put that down here. And what I tend to do too is cover quite a bit of this. I probably don't need the whole piece, but and then if there's any left over, it's always handy when you open up your box and you've got already some card coloured. And so what I tend to do is just pop on the back the colour that I'm doing so that I don't forget. Sometimes you sort of look at it later and think, oh, what is that colour? So it just saves having to do that. So I'm just going to add some water, which has got a little bit of colour in it because I was using it before. So I'll just put a bit of the ink on the block here. And I do find if you don't add enough water, it can grab, so it does pay to get some water set down on the card already, cardstock. And then if I tend to just squeeze it, and so some water comes out with that as well. And then depending on what the depth of colour you want as to how much you add. And I particularly wanted these to be sort of variegated, so I'm going to leave that not mixed in too much. So a couple of ways to dry it. One is with your heat tool, and that's quite interesting too, because then you can move the colour around and it leaves watermarks. So it depends if you like that look or not, but because we're going to be die cutting them, and I've got a piece already here that I've done, it won't be, it'll be variegated. So I've got my dies here. I've already pre-cut some, so you didn't have to watch me die cut them all. So I'll bring those in here. So they're quite subtle. Some of them, you know, just do get a bit of a variation depending on how you've watercoloured your card. I'm just going to bring in my little mini machine. I quite like that. You can see it's got that sort of ripple through it. So I'm just going to put those on there. And it's quite handy with this die set. It's got 2 of the smaller dies. So it saves how many times you have to run through. So I'm just going to get that going. And with this cardstock, it is a bit thicker. And I've got new plates too, so it's fairly tight. Is you want to go through 2 or 3 times just to get through that thicker card. Sorry, jiggling around here. So I'm just going to, well, that might be enough, we'll just see. You don't want to tear them either when you take them out. So that, oh, that has cut through, so that's good. I'll just pop that to one side. Move the dies out of the way, and then just need to get those little bits in the middle out. So just use that pointy end for my take your pick tool. See, so that's got a bit of variation on the colour, on the of colour. So you'll need 3 of the larger ones, 3 of the medium, and 6 of the small ones. And I'll bring this in. Now I want to create the wreath, the circular wreath. So what I've done is got this circle die here, and I've got another take your pick tool, and I've used this stylist, and I'm just going to mark some areas around here so that I can keep it fairly circular. I found when I put pencil mark, I was sort of then stuck, you know, I had to cover it up, and sometimes it wasn't always in the place that I wanted to go, so it just saves having to try and cover that up. So just pop a little bit of glue. So you just want to pop those around, and the glue does make it so you can move it if you decide that you work reasonably quickly. So I just started popping the bigger ones in first, and sort of tried to make them at equal distance apart. And then I only stuck the glue in the middle because I wanted to be able to move them so they did stick up a little bit. So it looked like there was a bit of movement on them. So that one I'm just going to tuck in here. Just lift that up a little bit so that I can tuck that in there. there. This last one, pop that up here. So they're just going next to the big one. And then the little ones, just pop glue on the back of all those. You could use glue dots if you preferred. And I'll just get some tweezers, so it just makes it a little bit easier when you're working with something smaller. I'll just tilt that, put that up a little bit. You can just bend them up before you put them down, or once they're down. Some of these ones are a little bit lighter. This is quite a light version, so you always get a bit of a variation depending on how much colour you added. And in there, and the last one, just going to tuck in here. So you just want to make sure it looks fairly circular. Oopsie. Drag that down a little bit. So I think that looks fairly good. And as I say, see with the glue, it did mean I could move it a little bit. And the next thing I've got is some ribbon, and I want to tie the bow. See, and I've got all these layers here. So what I've done is I've taken some of the white baker's twine and popped a little tail out here, and then I'm going to take this and do a little loop here, so depending on how big you want your loops, it's about there, and another one here. This one might be a little bit too big, so about that, like that, I think. It does tend to have a little bit of a mind of its own, but try and control that. And then another loop, another one, and lastly and on this side. Have that tail going out there, and then I've just brought, hopefully that will stay in place when I take my finger away. Yes, take this, just tie a bow, or a knot rather, over that bow. Give it a big firm tie, and you can move it and pull it around, so it's, which I will do shortly. So give it a good firm pull, and then do another knot over the top. And I'll just trim that off, so you won't see that, that's going to be under the sentiment. So you've got your bow, so you can just move that over, or adjust the, so I've got them about even. Can have a wee fiddle around once you've got it on too. So there. So it just makes it a little bit easier than looping it around your fingers if you have trouble with that. And then what I'm going to do is just pop a glue dot down about where you want to pop your bow. So I want it to be about there. And pop that there. Then I'll just trim this. I don't want that tail to be quite as long. So hopefully that's about even. And then the last thing to do is the sentiment. So I've got a piece of cardstock already cut. I find it easier to cut the cardstock first and get it nice and straight than try and cut it once the, you know, if you stamp it first. So I've got this in Blushing Bride, and because it's see-through you can see where you want it to go. And then all I've done is created a little bit of a tail in here. And then I want to pop that over there. And that bow is reasonably high, so just to so that you do clear it quite well and it doesn't go all lumpy and bumpy. What I've done is take those backs off and then just put another one on top. That will give you plenty of clearance and make it look nice and flat. You know, just want to bring that in, take that up so it's straight. See? Try that again. And over there a little bit. And then lastly, oh, not lastly, actually two more things to do. Got some pearls, so I'm going to pop the pearls on. And I'll use the other end of this, just trim that down a little bit. This is great for moving the pearls around. So I've popped the big ones in the centre of those, the smaller snowflakes, because they've got those nice big centres. Hasn't the glue hasn't dried yet. Oh, I'm getting myself in a muddle here. It was a little bit long, that where's this one? Yeah, it's not long enough. Just squeeze that around to go. It does work really well, just picks those up. Yeah. And then the smaller ones, I'm just going to, these are the medium. Pop a medium one down here. And one of the small ones down there. And some of those little tiny ones in the centres of those ones. And another medium one up here. And oh, another little one up the top here. And then this is the last thing to do is I just added some of the Stampin' Right marker in the coordinating Blushing Bride and just flick that over the back of the whole card just to give a bit of interest. You don't have to do this, but I always like to do that. And that is my card completed. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Take care. Bye.